Welcome everyone. My name is Terry Burnett. I'm the Executive Director for Creativity for Peace, and we're collaborating with Combatants for Peace today. This particular talk is really exciting and special, and we're really honored to be a part of it. This is Women's Voices About Annexation. And really the goal of this collaboration is to share, educate, outreach, and lift up the voices of two of the young women involved in Creativity for Peace, and also two activists involved in Combatants for Peace. So for those of you that aren't familiar with our organization, Creativity for Peace, we've been active since 2003. Starting during the second Intifada, and the goal has always been about bringing Israeli Jewish young women and Palestinian young women together for really transformational encounters, and then ultimately for them to collaborate and become leaders, partners, and oftentimes friends in the region. And the way we do it is it starts with a 3-week intensive that happens in New Mexico. And this is facilitated by two dialogue facilitators, one Jewish and Palestinian, and they work with young women very intensively. So 13 3-hour dialogues. And that's followed and often combined with therapeutic art to do a lot of the emotional processing. And lots of fun things too. We do circus arts, ropes courses, and time for them to really bond. To break through those feelings of hatred and anger into mutual respect. And about 5 or 6 years ago, we started something called the ACT program, and that's Action for Conflict Transformation. And that's a 2-year, now a 1-year leadership program that brings them back together after their 3-week intensive. And they focus on topics such as gender. They do dual narrative tours in Jerusalem to learn about both sides of the conflict and to continue their work as leaders and activists. So I'm going to turn it over to Beth to talk a little bit about Combatants, and then I'll introduce the two young women from Creativity for Peace.
Hi everyone, my name is Beth Schumann. I'm the director of American Friends of Combatants for Peace. We are the NGO that was built in the United States to help support the movement of Combatants for Peace in Israel and Palestine. So I'll talk about the movement in the region and then turn it back over to the activists. So Combatants for Peace was founded in the year 2006 by former fighters on both sides of the conflict in Israel and Palestine. So we had former Israeli soldiers alongside former Palestinian prisoners. And both sides renounced violence in its entirety, put their weapons down, and began working together to end the occupation and build a better future for both peoples based on freedom, equality, justice, and democracy for everybody. And so we have two of our female activists with us today, Galia Galilei and Rafa. Rafa, forgive me if I mispronounce your last name, Miss Maher. And before we begin, Galia, could you share the map of the proposed annexed area? So this is a map of the Trump plan, which the Trump plan was the beginning of the talk about annexation. You can see all of the color in here. So the beige is Israel. Then the green areas are the areas of the West Bank that would remain the Palestinian territories. And the blue areas are the areas that are proposed to be annexed. So you can see it's on the edge, the border with Jordan would be the Jordan Valley, which would cut the proposed Palestinian state off entirely from having its own border. It'd be a complete enclave inside Greater Israel, and it creates the Palestinian areas as little islands, disconnected islands. So you can see the blue areas with settlements, the Jordan Valley. So that's the proposed annexation map by the Trump plan. And our activists are going to speak more about that. Is there anything you guys want to jump in now and say anything before we begin as basic context, or is that all right? Dolly, I'm talking to you especially.
Yeah, fine.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely get more into it. We just wanted to share the map. For those of you who are visual like me, it's really helpful to see what exactly we're talking about today so that you can put into context some of the personal stories that you're going to hear with the reality on the ground. So we're going to start, and the two young women from Creativity for Peace are not sharing their videos, and also not their last names, and one of them not even the first name. And Amira can speak a little bit more to why that is something that they have to do. But first I'm going to introduce Amira. She was a camper in 2005 and is now 32 years old. Since her first year of camp, she's been continually involved as a young leader, a senior young leader, a facilitator in training, and currently as our Palestinian coordinator and our Palestinian dialogue facilitator for our 2020 camp this year. Amira started working with Creativity for Peace as a part-time employee in 2012, and in 2019 joined our staff full-time. She lives in Ramallah with her husband and two young children. Amira, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you everyone, and thank you, Terry, for this introduction. First of all, I want to apologize that I'm not able to share my video, and this is because of safety reason. Especially, I'm working with the Creativity for Peace, but many people in my surrounding don't know it or either don't accept it. In one hand, I'm very proud that I'm part of Creativity for Peace, but in the other hand, I can't openly talk about it. Especially the political situation now make it even harder for any Palestinian-Israeli activity or gathering. I hope you understand, and this is the same case with the other speaker from Creativity for Peace. Okay, so annexation, we are here to talk about it, and for me, as a Palestinian, I would prefer it in a different word: stealing more land, using force. Annexation of the Jordan Valley and the settlement on the West Bank means to me there will be no Palestinian state. So it will kill my dream and our dream as a Palestinian to have a state, to have the minimum human rights, to live in a safe place, move freely from one city to another, to have enough water, to use the best agricultural land in my homeland. I am against it, and Israeli talking about it give me a hopeless feeling for now and for my future. I lived all my life under occupation, and I was hoping a better future for my kids, to make their dream come true, to live peacefully in their own country. And I want to share with you an example of their little dream. Their little dream is to going to the beach. We can't go because many reasons. I live in Ramallah, and the beach is a few hours away, but there is a checkpoint. And this checkpoint needs a permit from the Israeli government. I can get one. I'm luckily because I'm working with the Creativity for Peace, and I can get one because of my work. But my husband is prevented to have a permit for 120 years from now, and we don't know why. I am a Palestinian woman working and involved in Creativity for Peace since I was 18 years old. I always believed that Israeli people are our partner, and they listen and understand my story and pain. But if annexation will happen in 2 days, according to the Israeli government, it will shake my beliefs in what I'm doing in Creativity for Peace. Israeli government is already taking action on the ground by confiscating more land, destroying the trees. It is a crime, and it kills all the hope to have peace in the region. We need all to stop this. Palestinians already going to demonstrations and raising the awareness to what it really means and how it will affect our life. And we are seeking the international law to stop it. And I want to take the advantage of this call, and I see many of you here, and I want to ask all the Israeli people to stand with Palestinians, to pressure on their government to stop this. Annexation means war in the region. Now Palestinian government terminating all security agreements and cooperation with Israel and the United States, because Israel is determined to go for the annexation, to annex around 1/3, 30% of the occupied West Bank, which we dream to be part of the independent state. And my only hope and request that it will not be implemented. Thank you.
Thank you, Amira. Thank you for speaking so eloquently and personally. And I can picture your two kids, actually. Okay, our next speaker, she is a young woman living in Palestine in the West Bank. She's 20 years old, and she's a media student in her 3rd year at university. And she was a camper at Creativity for Peace in 2017. Welcome.
Hello everyone. I want to talk about Israel's plan to annex the Palestinian territories. It's an Israeli-American plan which is part of the terms of the deal of the century that the American President Donald Trump spoke about. The Israeli government will annex 30% of the area of the West Bank, around 43 Palestinian cities, although it control 50% of its land. The plan will begin implementations during the month of July. In the event that Israeli resorted to annexations, there would be thousands of Palestinians threatened with explosions, and the number of settlers will increase year after year, as a result of facilitators provided by the government. And the annexations will affect us a lot. We in the normal life of our movement face difficulties and will increase after the implementations of this plan, of course. And I have, as a girl who is a study at the university, I have many friends who live in villages that will be subject to annexations. I will feel sorry when I see the difficulty of their transportations and arrival at the university, and I will feel sorry when I can't go to visit them. And I want to share about something issue. It's important for me to share about it at the front of you guys. That as a Palestinian girl who lives in the West Bank and has the right to see the sea, which is only half an hour away from my city, but with an Israeli checkpoint, it is more than an hour away from me. We are Palestinians who live in the West Bank. We suffer a lot when we want to enter to see the Palestinians' land, like Akka, Haifa, and we couldn't see until after a permit from Israel. And the process of obtaining a permit isn't an easy matter. And I tried to apply for a permit many times and couldn't get one to see the sea. The only way I entered to see the sea is through the Creativity for Peace Foundations when I went to the discussions sessions. Maybe this matter doesn't matter to many and they don't find it important, but for me and for many Palestinians, it's important. But I feel very sorry when I see pictures of my friends who live in Israel, who are on the beach, eat fish, and I feel so sad that I am not able to go there to see Akka, Haifa, and other cities. So that I can be frank with you, this has negatively affected on me a lot during this period especially. We know that the outbreak of the coronavirus was a great danger to all of us, and we stayed in our houses for more than 3 months of closure and not leaving anywhere. But after life returned to normal, as we can say, um, after all this period, we need a place like the sea to be able to take energy from it and optimism, and not just go to a park or a restaurant to eat food. So when I always see pictures of my friends in the sea, I say to them, I like you guys, I wish I hope I was with you. I just sit on the roof of my house to see some of the ship. This is all I can see from the sea from my house. Finally, I want to say something. As a Palestinian girl, she has the right to live on her land and to obtain all her rights. I will stand behind the Palestinians' leadership in facing this plan until it's stopped, and our rights to get the Palestinian lands with its capital Jerusalem. And I want from others to feel and stand by us. This plan will affect all of us, and we will lose our sovereignty over our countries that we have the right to. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. What I really hear you saying is just the deep connection to land. And I think it's something that a lot of us as Americans take for granted. How much, we enjoy places that we live and the people around us and our freedom of movement. And I think you really described that, what you don't have and the potential even greater loss of that. So thank you for sharing. Okay, so we're going to move now and hear from the Combatants for Peace activists. I'm going to first read their bios and then ask a few questions to them individually in both of them, and we'll see how much time we have left over for question and answer from all of you. Okay, so Gali grew up in Jerusalem with both Israeli and Palestinian playmates. As a child, she didn't distinguish between the two sides. All the kids would play soccer together, liberate dogs and donkeys from captivity, skate, and just hang out. She was unaware of the political situation of occupation and inequality, as politics were never talked at home because of the huge gap in opinions between her parents. Her father was extreme right-wing and quite racist, so she had to keep her friendships secret. Gali served in the Air Force during the first Intifada. So did her then boyfriend, now husband. They both took part in military actions against civilians, acts in which they didn't fully understand their own role nor the purpose of the actions. Gali stayed away from politics until her first son was born, at the end of the second Intifada. This Intifada affected Gali personally and strongly influenced her mindset and beliefs. She began to understand that violence only brings more violence, and that there are no bystanders in this conflict. The second Intifada was the first time she became politically aware, but it was not until the last Gaza invasion in 2014 that she became an activist. Her husband and friends served in the Air Force during the invasion, and her initial concern for her own loved ones soon turned to rage over the massacre she was witnessing happening in Gaza. As a mother to 3 boys now, she decided to take full responsibility of her people's actions and herself. Gali joined Combatants for Peace full of hope and determined to end the occupation before her eldest son would be drafted. 5 years later, her eldest son is in the military, and his younger brother starting his draft procedure, and she is more humble. But Gali is no less determined in her work to end the occupation and build a future of peace and equality for both peoples. The second activist that we're going to hear from is Rafa Mismar. She grew up in Nablus, a Palestinian city in the West Bank. She grew up in a secular, highly educated, and very political home. Yet as a child, she only knew Israelis as soldiers standing at the checkpoints between the Palestinian cities and villages. As a teen, Rafa attended Seeds of Peace summer camp, which was when she first encountered Israelis as something other than soldiers or violent settlers. When she was 18 years old and her Israeli friends from Seeds of Peace were drafted into the army, her friends wanted to know what she thought of them serving in the army. She would say to them, "If we meet at the checkpoint, what will you do?" They never had a good answer for her. And this experience disillusioned her, turning her away from peace activism for the next few years. Rafa went on to study journalism and earned her master's degree in democracy and human rights. She volunteered with both Palestinian youth and Palestinian women's organizations. And later, as a human rights activist, she started meeting Israelis who had refused to serve in the military, people who believed in her rights as an equal human being and took a strong and active stand against the occupation. This is how she became a member of Combatants for Peace. Years ago, her father, who was always her hero, asked her to never forget the dream of a free Palestine. Today, she is working to free her people and build alliances with her Israeli partners. All right, so questions. So let's start with Rafa. Or Galia, I'm sorry. Can you tell us what it was like for you as a mother when you realized your eldest son was going to have to serve in the military?
Yeah, well, I realized it the minute he came out. Yeah, all Israelis have to go to the army. I don't know if that's obvious to everyone. It's the law. And any refusal to go to the army, you go to jail. You need to be a very, very stubborn and self-determined young 16 or 17-year-old in order to refuse to go. And my son, just a normal teenager, and he didn't even have a thought not to go. It was really hard for me to even speak about it. Like 2 years before he went, I would just burst into tears. Not only because I was afraid for him, mostly because I gradually felt like separated from my country and separated from the mission of our army. Like usually, as I grew up, I believe that our army is a defensive army. It defends our country. Where we don't have anywhere to go, we're going to stay here. But I so disagree with what the army stands for today, with occupying civilians, occupying other people's land, that it was really, really hard time for me. And a lot of quarrels were at home between me and my husband, who still does military service in the reserve army. Every week he goes for a day. He thinks it's his civil responsibility. And I thought my son's civil responsibility is to refuse to go and to refuse to take part in this. We had huge quarrels. But my son decided he's going. And now my second son is doing his first steps into being drafted. And it's very, very difficult as a mom to see them go.
Well, I just have one brief follow-up question to that. Thank you. How do you manage, you staying true to yourself and your beliefs and your activism and your relationship with your sons? How do you do that?
First of all, they don't serve in the occupied territories, and I am hopeful. I think they would refuse. I'm really hopeful that they would be up to it mentally to say no to a command. But that makes it so much easier because they're in the Air Force. My husband and my son are in the Air Force, so they are not actually in the occupied territories and don't do anything to protect the other soldiers in the occupied territories. So that makes it much easier. But still, yeah, we have a lot of issues, and I just have feeling in myself that I have to continue and fight this. Yesterday I was in Jericho the whole day with the protest, and it's just my life. They have a separate life.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to turn to Rafa. Can you tell us what it was like for you when you started your work as a journalist, still living under occupation?
Hi, thank you for listening. And it's truly very tough to be a journalist, female journalist, in a conservative community like Palestinian West Bank, and in the same time with the occupation itself, because you will be really facing danger directly. It's not easy, but it's one of the impossible missions that I like women to lead it and to be in it in this area, because I'm interested that women should raise their voices here in Palestine and the same in Israel, and to say more about we can do what we like to do, we can work as in a job that we wanted to do, so circumstances shouldn't stop us. And that's make me feel more strong while working as a journalist beside being a peace activist. That was like, let's say, supporting each other, like the two interest things that I'm doing it. It's not easy, it's difficult, but it's not impossible. This is what I believe in it. It's nothing impossible, since I have the power that to do it. I have a good family to support, and at the same time I have people who's listening to me and able to lead the change with me.
Have you had any experiences where there were attempts to be silenced?
It's really many times, like it's not easy to cover, let's say, some accidents when you are seeing a child were arrested in Hebron, for example, or seeing things when a child going to his school and just a Israeli petrol stop him in Turmus Aya. It's a village between Nablus and Ramallah, asking the boy to open his bag and appear what he has inside it, like the battery, even be close to the child to help him or to make it a little bit easier to him. Is many times you freeze where you are when you see how ugly is occupation, and it's and many times if you try to involve a little bit, soldiers could be arrest you, soldiers could be shoot at you, or it could be like beating. That image that not a journalist was covering the news and should have something for the agency.
Yeah. Thank you, Rafa. So I want to ask a question to both of you. If annexation goes through, what will that mean for you and your families?
Garia.
I go first, sorry. Okay, well, obviously the annexation will affect Palestinians so much more than it will affect me as an Israeli. But still, I feel my life will change very, very gradually, but at the end, it will be so different than what I live today, and of course, totally different from what I envision life here in this region could be. First of all, I'm going to lose my neighbors as partners, and gain them as enemy. An enemy is going to be, and rightly so, just across a very hard border. My own realm will be smaller. Now I go to Palestine, I meet with my friends, we're active in that region. I won't be able to go there anymore and not be part of trying to pull together the two people. And the security here will be just horrible, the outrage from the occupied territories, for one. Second, we're actually bringing our border closer to Jordan, closer to Iran, who is our worst enemy. We are going, our our country is so small, it's 12 kilometers wide at some points. And having that as the country and knowing the border after these 12 kilometers from the sea is a hot border. It's a border where we're at war with, is just unreasonable to think that we will survive. So I will be afraid for my own security, my children's security, but maybe most of all, I'll be disappointed and so ashamed of my country and not knowing how to raise my kids on Jewish morals anymore, or on any human morals. It's just like shattering my world.
Talia, really quick, before Rafa responds, I'm just curious, do you feel like your opinion and thoughts and fears represent the majority of Jewish Israelis, or do you feel like your voice is in the minority?
Usually about the whole occupation, my voice is maybe somewhat of a minority, although I think most people are for going back to 67 borders and making peace, but they just don't think there's a partner on the other side. But on this annexation issue, I think the very vast majority of Israelis know that it's really it's a disaster economically for Israel, security-wise for Israel, and I don't think many support it. It was a dream of the very, very extremists who suddenly came into our lives as just landed from the United States, actually, and is like something that there are a lot of demonstrations here against the annexation, and that's I think the majority.
Thank you. Rafa?
Yeah, the annexation truly will affect me directly. I'm living in a city, and when I'm moving from a city to a city, that means I should pass in places where there's a lot of settlers there. It's really the big threat to my life and my family life and all the people who's there. It's that the settlers within the annexation, they will be unleashed. They will be in the streets all the time. They are already armed, so that means you can face them directly right now. They can attack you, attack your car, attack the bus that you are using it, and they will attack even the, let's say, my Israeli friends who's already visiting me, let's say in Ramallah or in Jericho or in Bethlehem. So the settlers will be a big threat to me directly, and at the same time, many other friends of mine who studied at university with me, they are from villages, and many of these villages, like Bardalah, they are like in between the line of Jordan Valley from up north to the mid and to more south. These people, they are like farmers, they are villagers. They are gonna use their land, their main resource for their living. So this type of annexation, which is like taking more land without people or let people evacuate their houses, that's one of the big miserable conditions can ever happen in 2020. So I will be like trying to make things more easier for my friends who I'm talking with them daily since the annexation, like be in the media seriously by Netanyahu, that the question always what we can do. It's like you have to stay where you are. You have to defend your houses, your memories, your farms, your animals. You have to stay where you are. It's the only way to keep your right where you are. And we are doing hard work right now as a peace activist, like as Galia said, demonstrations all the time. The Israeli street finally awake and start to say, no, we don't need such an annexation because it will mean more injustice within the case of a Palestine-Israel conflict within the occupation itself. And it damages more and more the picture of Israeli people who always seek security and peace as much as Palestinians seek for security and peace. So in a personal level, I will be threatened. In a social level, we will be threatened. And in the same time, we will be like, our existence, it will be threatened too.
Can I ask a follow-up question, Rafa? For those of us that are still trying to sort of pull apart what annexation means on the ground. So if you're a Palestinian living in a city or a village that's going to be annexed, what status will you have if annexation goes through?
Truly, according to the Israeli government declaration right now, it's more related to Netanyahu declaration right now, the status will be as the follow. You will be living in ghettos. You are more restricted in your movement, more than you are already restricted. There will be more checkpoints. There will be no Israeli IDs for Palestinians because that will threat the dream of Jewish state. At the same time, there will not be, let's say, a real rights for the Palestinians whose unidentified in unidentified areas or unidentified people. So their status will be like if they needed ambulance, let's say, they should ask it from the Palestinian side, while they are under Israeli control because there must be a gate for that Israeli village or Palestinian village who become under Israeli military law. So that's one of the basic problematic things. People will not be able to go to their lands. They will not be able to do their as shepherd to go in the wide lands to feed their goats and sheep. There will be more restrictions for people like you are a young man, maybe you are a terrorist, you are not allowed to enter, as they do right now with the places north of West Bank, like in Jayus, Kalkilia, Jenin, where people are not allowed to enter to their land just to check up in their trees, especially olive trees, 2 or 3 times a year. And as you know, farming needs more than that to be taking care for your trees and fruits. So ghettos will be, let's say, the address for everybody who's understand what's really going to happen. It will be racism directly. Your ID will be like your green ID, Palestinian ID, but you are living under military Israeli zones. That means you should have a special permit, for example, to enter your own house in this case, not to enter Jerusalem or to enter Israel. So many hard restrictions, and that will lead to more hopeless, will lead to more jobless people, that will lead to more anger, and that will lead to more poverty, more hungry voices and people, and that will not lead us to anything good. It will not be for the good, the greatest good, let's say, as what Netanyahu and the right government publishing in their propaganda.
So just so that I'm clear, people who live in these annexed areas will not receive Israeli citizenship, and they're going to live in ghettos as you're describing it.
Yes, they are not going to have Israeli citizenship.
Okay. Gali, do you want to respond at all to what this will mean?
Yeah, maybe I can show pictures so people will know what we're talking about, even the Jordan Valley in itself. See? Can you see the picture?
Yeah, they're not enlarged, but we can see them.
Wait, so
yeah,
let me.
I think you have to click on it to enlarge it.
Yeah, I'll do that again.
If you can do zoom in, and
it's okay?
Yeah, it's okay. It's screening.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, This is how the Jordan Valley looks like. It's not all the area that is going to be annexed, and of course not all the area that is under occupation, but the majority of people in the Jordan Valley are farmers, are shepherds, are not very privileged economically. How do I move the, oh, we're sitting on the thing that moves the pictures. No. Sorry. I don't know how to.
You might just have to do one by one.
Oh, here. Okay, that's fine. So water for the sheep, water for cleaning and water for drinking. They have to, right now they use containers to get water from the rain. They're not connected to any water pipes or anything like that. Only the settlements and the military compounds are connected with water. Sometimes this is the Khirbet Makhul. There's a military spot just above the hill, above this small village, and they have a water pipe going through the village, which they're not allowed to tap into, and goes straight into the settlement and the military compound. And these people strive to get water. And this is going to be much worse now because they collect the water, rainwater from all the hills surrounding. Now the hills are going to be annexed, so these people won't be able to go there even to their small wells and take the water. House demolitions. They live in tents and not really houses because A, they're Bedouins, and B, they can't even get a permit even if they applied because there's no master plan over there. Israel doesn't do a master plan because they don't want buildings. They're only for settlements. So Bedouins don't get permits, and so their house gets destroyed very regularly. This is going to be even worse now while the annexation is going on. During Corona time, Israel's government or the military seized the moment and made a lot of demolitions while no one was watching in order to create more land for the settlements surrounding these small villages.
So, Gali, do you have a sense that if annexation goes through, that this part of Palestine will become very much like it is in Gaza?
Well, these the smart, I should not say that, but thing that is that these are very small villages, so they'll be like enclaves. They have no power at all. It won't be like Gaza that is a city, so at least they have a community, at least. These people have nothing. This is the land of this man here. He's Palestinian. He just got shot. This was 2 weeks ago by settlers. Settlers already act as if they own the land, but now they will really own the land. So we dread to think what is going to be going on here. And there is a lot of aggression from the settlers and also from the military. And now that they are going to be the supposedly legal owners of the land, it will be just impossible for the sheep to graze on these lands or anything like that. So we come in as combatants to accompany the shepherds a lot of times, or accompany the children going to school because they get hit by settlers. This is Itamau with a donkey. So I just think that it's going to be whatever is happening today in the occupation, and it is happening and will happen even if we stop the annexation. But it's happening slowly. Annexation will just make it so rapid and so in a very, very large scale, very quickly. So we're talking about annexation, but we really should be focusing on the bigger picture too, on the occupation, which is not going away even if we stop the annexation.
Rafa, thank you. Thank you for sharing those photos. Rafa, would you like to respond at all to what's going on specifically in the Jordan Valley?
Yeah, please, Beth, if you can share the pictures for the women. I'm interested to tell you about the women in Jordan Valley area. The population there, it's around 122,000. The women there around 60,000. So the first picture for Rukaya, she's my friend. I was talking to her lately. Rukaya, she's one of the ladies who's not just a housewife. She's also working with her goats. Like she's milking them, making cheese, and she make a very good goat cheese. Truly, each time after an April-May time, we go there, we buy a good cheese from her family and other villages around. Rukaya, she's working with many other women there in different type of work. Like they do farming, they do harvesting in seasonal timing, and they do, let's say, handcrafts. They make very nice traditional things. So she's a mom. So most of the women there, they handle, let's say, more than one task. She's not just a mom. She's not just a wife. She's not just a teacher. They have, let's say, simple schools. There's teachers there. Of course, as a Muslim community, it's separated, the boys and girls. And they have education, some level, not that much, but they are participating in work as a matter of existence, because part of their daily life is they don't have water, as Galia mentioned. They should go to different places to bring more water. Sometimes water pipes it could be broken because many Israeli trainings happened in that area, and they asked them to do kind of evacuation. The young ladies from Creativity for Peace, they mentioned that 30% of the Palestinian land, which is like providing the Palestinians for food like vegetables, fruits, basics, weight, all the basic needs that we needed, it's already from that area, from that land. So the women there, they participate in producing that. So you will not be, let's say, surprised if you see one of that trees have a name like Khadija or Aisha, because one of the girls was born in that time and grew up with the same age as trees. So you have a warm feelings that, because it's a family business somehow. It's a human planet relationship, and in the same time, the people there, they are like facing nature alone. They are in area C, which is not able to build a house or even renovate the house or even fix the house. It's not easy to bring a plumber sometimes to do something for you. And if you need to do some things, you need to go to the closest city to you, like to Bas or Ramallah, or to go to Hebron, which is sometimes you have to drive for hours. So the women there, they are really active, and they will be facing a serious problematic things, like when the annexation happened. They will face all of that by themselves. Uh, there will be like the mothers who should take care of the kids. There will be the mothers who will face annexation by what we should do if the husband or the father hasn't. And at the same time, if any of these girls are going to school or going to university, that means the possibility of to participate in another school it's kind of a dream to them. How? Where? Because the issue of evacuation is one of the scenarios that Israeli army are like, let's say, proposing to the people themselves. And the Bedouins themselves, the Bedouins, how they will move. Bedouins are in the same, let's say, lifestyle from over 200 years. They are moving from place to place, feeding their goats and sheep, making milk, making cheese, like doing very particular stuff related to their own culture, and at the same time collecting herbs from the mountains and from the fields and sell to the people. So the issue for women, it will be double work, double pain, and at the same time double tragedy.
Thank you, Rafa. I think this is a perspective that is not widely shared in the media, and certainly in the US media. So thank you for highlighting that. We just have about 5 minutes left, and so there's a couple questions that have come in from Facebook and in the chat that I'll open up to all of our speakers today. So the first question is, if most Israelis are against annexation, why is it happening?
Can you repeat? Sorry.
Sure. So if most Israelis are against annexation, why is it continuing to move forward?
Well, it's supposed to be in 2 days. I don't see that it's really going forward. I think all the protests against it are really helping. It's only 2 days away, and they don't know what they're going to annex and how. So I hope it's not really going to be very soon, but it's a long term. In long term, we should be still a very on top of it and seeing that it doesn't. Yeah, the main thing is that we have a prime minister who is under allegations of very, very harsh accusations. So he has a very big intense how do you say it? Motivation, yeah. And Trump too, for his elections coming. They both don't have anything to show for any political moves, so they both need this in their eyes.
Mm-hmm. Well,
let me add sentence. When the right wing leads, that means damages will be all over the area. It's right-wing government that did not hear the Israeli street very well, did not hear the voices of the people, the seculars, the normal people who's saying, no, it's just right-wing government, settlers government.
So maybe we'll finish with one question, and that's, what are you all doing, and what can we do as the international community, the American community, do to support these efforts against annexation?
I'm glad you asked. Can I show more pictures? I'd like, again, sorry, I will stop sharing a minute. I'll open this one.
The answer until you will be ready.
Yep, this one, yeah. So what we are doing is, I'll go through it very, very quickly, is rebuilding things that are demolished. We are planting trees in order to show that olive trees are sort of a symbol, and to show the possession of the Palestinians on their land. So we're helping them plant trees, harvest the trees when it's we do protests in Palestine. This was just this Saturday, and we do protests in Israel too. We do all kinds of art activities to spread the word, like these balloons with things on them, no annexation and so on. We help this is also in Khilbat Makhul, which I showed the small children before. We help excavate and funnel the water through their wells. We do sit-ins. We try to advocate to international publicity. This is a French TV interview. And we do, we write letters. We have a lawyer and we give advice, sort of legal advice. It's more of a provocative move. We sent these letters to 120 of the Israelis MPs saying you'll be personally liable for voting for annexation. Or we go to the UN and asked the, how do you call it, the Security Council, yeah, to intervene and to give sanctions on the Israeli government and especially on Bibi Gantz and Ashkenazi. We went to the Greek and Cyprus. We wrote a letter to their military heads, asking them not to give up on their military coordination with Israel, because they will be acting in occupied territory and in illegal way now because it's annexed. And so on. So we have a lot of these letters going out, and the media is catching on them because they are very provocative. We get a lot of heat, but it's bringing publicity to the things. And also, maybe most important, just being in the occupied territories and staying like a tumud, just staying there and being part of and acting together, Palestinians and Israelis. I think that's the most, the strongest thing that we can do right now. So
thank you. I just want to leave a little time if Rafa or Amira or other speaker want to share any final words before we close. And of course, both organizations are available and welcome any questions or contacts that you have if you have follow-up questions and want to pursue anything that's been talked about in this event today. But I do want to just leave a last few minutes to Rafa or Amira or our other speaker.
I need to add, beside what Galia said, it's like talk to your parliament members, talk to your Congress members, women and men. Talk about how is it hard to have such a bad situation in existence, right for these people. It's not politics as much as it's about rights. These are suffering from the occupation too. It's not just the annexation, it's occupation. Push as much as you can, talking in media, writing letters, writing for the UN, writing for the Congress members who can really make a change. And please let the people be in the streets and talk about why all of this support to that part of the world within bad results, not within good results. We need the people to move out. We need the members of justice organizations, civic society organizations, human rights organizations to stand with us. We need all of that support because it's really one of the hardest battle we will face it as Palestinians there, as peace activists, Palestinians and Israelis, and at the same time, it's a human issue. Women, children will be facing a terror. It will be like a very small war there when they will be uprooted from where they are. So ending the occupation, that will be the big message, and stop annexation. We are against annexation. Message we can do it, and keep supporting us in the way that you feel it's supporting us, and write to the people who can really make a change. Thank you.
Thank you, Rafa. Amira?
Yeah, I would like to add only one sentence that here we are in this call, Palestinian and the Israelis, and we are saying to the whole world that we are against the annexation. And the only thing that I can ask now for everyone in this call, if you want to stand with us, Palestinians and Israelis, the first step that you can do is to spread this word, to spread this Zoom meeting, and share it with your friends. And in this way, I hope that our voices will be reached to the world, to our community, to both community in Palestine and in Israel, and it will raise the awareness, especially under this time, the pandemic. Most of the people are worried about their life, about their health, and they are, they are aware of the annexation, but it's not their higher priority now. So I want this awareness to be all around. Thank you. Thank you for everyone who's joining us. And it's really warmed my heart as a Palestinian, and knowing that there is Israelis against annexation.
Thank you, Amira.
Thank you.
So maybe we'll close. I just first of all want to thank the speakers for taking the time and speaking so clearly and eloquently about this really complicated issue. It's hearing it from people on the ground, I think, is the most powerful. So thank you all, and thank you to Combatants for Peace for welcoming us and letting us be a part of this call. The collaboration is wonderful, and I hope it continues. And in terms of Creativity for Peace, being on this call is a huge support. And also we're fundraising for camperships for our 2020 campers. And we would love your support with that as well.
And thank you as well from Combatants for Peace to all of you for joining us. It's really due to your support, your kindness, and your generosity that our movement is allowed to grow and function in the way it does. So thank you in advance for sharing this video, for your generosity in time or financial, however you feel moved to contribute. And we're really grateful that you joined us. And we will send more information in a follow-up email. And we sent our contact information into the chat. So do feel free to be in touch with us if you have anything to follow up. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Take care.
Bye.